All right. First full series for the 12th Doctor. Let's see how he did. It's that time, folks. Series 8 Take 2 Doctor Who reviews are done, which means I gotta rank these. Because that's what I do. I'm a geek. Can't stop myself. So, even though I did the review for each half of a two-parter separately, I am going to lump them together for this ranking. Now, there's only one two-parter that ends up happening to, but that means that we have 11 of these to get through. So, let us begin at the very bottom. Number 11, Kill the Moon. This thing is just confused. Not confusing, confused. It either had a point that it was trying to make and made it poorly, or it accidentally stumbled and backdoored its way into a point that a lot of people read into it that it wasn't trying to make. It's a failing either way. Either it presented a story that works so well as an allegory that everyone assumed it was, and nobody on the production side caught that they'd done that, or it was in fact meant as an allegory, in which case it just did not work at all. And then this thing also has some of the softest science that Doctor Who has ever indulged in it. And I can be pretty forgiving about that, but when the moon falls apart and is then replaced by an identical moon laid by a dragon who was inside the moon, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna go, what? Number 10, The Caretaker. Just a lot of things that don't work for me in this one. Pretty much across the board. The vibe and the humor, it's got kind of a romantic comedy thing going for it with the way that Danny and Clara's dynamic is working in this episode, and the way the Doctor kind of stumbles into it, and there's the misunderstandings about who he thinks Clara's dating. I'm like, oh God, I just don't care. So there's that, and I actually like the relationship between Clara and Danny. So it's not that time spent on the relationship, it's the way it's presented in this I don't like. The Blitzer I don't think is a particularly interesting antagonistic force, either conceptually or design-wise, and the execution of how it moved was weird and wonky, and there just isn't a lot to recommend this one. Number 9, In the Forest of the Night. I suspect a lot of people would have put this below The Caretaker. I think the difference for me is it's hard for me to get worked up about this episode because I'm largely just befuddled by it. I honestly don't really know what it was going for. And so it makes it harder for me to judge. It may well have failed harder than other things, and it certainly failed in terms of communicating its intentions if I can rewatch it this many years later with as much of a better understanding about narratives and themings and all this other stuff and still go, I don't know what you were doing with that. So obviously it still fails, but because I don't know what it was doing, I can't go, well, you failed at what you tried to do, because I can't make heads or tails of what this thing's trying to do. It's not good, but I'm too confused by it to get upset. Number 8, Into the Dalek. Basically a mashup. Honestly, thinking about it now, this feels a bit fanficky. Not in the way that it's like fan service and that way, but I mean the way that it's basically mashing up at least 3 ideas done before in other episodes into this thing and not really doing anything to change them, just sticking all these ideas together. The ideas of being miniaturized and being in a mechanical body that has antibodies. The idea of a Dalek who gets a better perspective on the Daleks and believes they must be destroyed. The Doctor, with his whole relating to Daleks in a way that he doesn't want to. All these are things done in better episodes, and yet they're all here, mashed up. Not incompetently mashed up, but just needlessly mashed up. We didn't gain anything from this. Number 7, Listen. There's some great moments in Listen, mostly on the part of Capaldi. He has some great speeches, some great monologue moments, and he delivers the heck out of them. But ultimately, I just feel like this thing is spinning circles. I feel like it was a terrific premise invented and that they just didn't come up with a firm idea of what to do with it, either in terms of theming that would lead and mix into the overall show, or what it said about the characters. It is presented with this momentousness that it doesn't measure up to. It's not bad, I just find it frustrating. Number 6, Time Heist. So we start getting into the ones that, I don't love, but I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Nothing really wrong with that one. It's fine. And that's pretty much Time Heist. I'm a sucker for a heist, but the fact that this didn't rank higher for me based on the fact that I am a sucker for that kind of stuff really should kind of tell you a few things. But, it still has the things I like about a heist. It has the planning. It has the dynamic of the people working together. It has the tension of, oh my gosh, are they going to get caught? It's got all that. And it does have some neat twists towards the end, so it's solid. Number 5, Deep Breath. The first full story for Peter Capaldi's 12th Doctor. And it's pretty good. That's kind of it. It's pretty good. There are moments that are really good, and I'm not sure there's anything in it that is that much better than in an episode like, say, Listen, but there are way fewer things pulling it back down than something like Listen had. Capaldi's still giving a very good performance. I am a sucker for the Paternoster gang, although I've said in the past, they are better than most of the stories they've actually been used in. But I do enjoy them, and they worked well, so that I was on board for, had fun with them. And there are some interesting moments, and it plays up the fact that we don't really know this Doctor yet, and we don't know how he's going to react and respond to things. And it does a pretty good job of playing off that uncertainty for some decent moments. Number 4, Flatline. This is just really good, solid stuff. It's such a bizarre premise, this whole idea of these two-dimensional beings coming into our world and taking us apart, learning about us, and then trying to become three-dimensional. And add that with the ridiculous idea of the TARDIS now being like this little tiny thing that Clara puts in her purse and the Doctor's stuck inside it because from his end the door keeps shrinking. Yeah, it's ridiculous and yet also pretty determined to be unsettling and unnerving, and it manages to do both in a way that doesn't clash, all things told. Yeah, it's good work. Number 3, the one I am going to be accused of putting way too high for most people's taste, but I told you in the review, I am just a sucker for this thing. I have so much fun with it, and sometimes fun wins. Robot of Sherwood. Oh, I just have so much fun. I love the banter. I love the way that Robin gets under the Doctor's skin. I love the sort of teacher energy that Clara brings to just get the Doctor to shut up, or tries to at a few points. There's just a really fun dynamic to it, and I honestly think we learn a fair bit about the Doctor through what he thinks of Robin and that little interaction they have towards the end, especially. I think this is an underrated episode. I'll just say that. Number 2, Dark Water and Death in Heaven. The more I think about it, the more I think this is one of the stronger finales for Doctor Who. I cannot remember where I put it when I did my ranking of series finales a year or two back. If it wasn't like top 3 or top 4 at a stretch, then I underestimated it. But it's good. It's really good. It does a really good job with the reveal of the Cybermen, then the reveal of Missy, the tension around Danny, and are they going to be able to get him back, and the payoff of that with his disobeying of everything that he is supposed to be doing. And of course, Missy, I do love me some Missy. And I think it's a really strong closer, especially for a two-parter. Oftentimes, two-parters, one half will be notably stronger than the other. That's not the case here. These are both equally good episodes. Good stuff. Number 1 spot could only ever be one thing. The Mummy on the Orient Express. This, for me, is the peak of this season. This series has a lot of roughness. Let's be honest. If you were paying attention, it wasn't until like the 6th one where I said they were even just got to okay. Prior to that, I had frustrations. So that's like half the episodes I'm like, to some degree or other. But man, I love everything about this episode. I love the tension. I love the clock. I love the way the doctor is bouncing off of everybody and how when he knows someone's going to die, he doesn't even bother trying to comfort them. He just accepts that they're going to die. I love the scene towards the end where there's the scene, with Clara and the doctor, and Clara's like, is this an addiction? And the doctor says, you really don't know until you try and quit. Their interactions are great. There's a great melancholy to it at the start when it's believed that this is going to be their final adventure together. The supporting cast is great. The look for the foretold is great. They actually integrate the soldier thing that was recurring across the series well into the story instead of just hitting you over the head with the doctor doesn't like soldiers. It's just the highest level execution of pretty much everything this series was trying to do, wrapped up into one awesome, shambling package. So that's my ranking for Series 6 of Doctor Who. What do you think? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something on down in the comments. Let's talk about it. You know all the stuff to do. Like and subscribe. I've got merch. I feel like I don't plug that very much. Though I do have to be honest, the Patreon is the big thing. That is what is currently covering my bills. But I'm not trying to guilt anyone, and I'm not trying to pressure you, because at the end of the day, you are the council, and I am just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.